All right, so now you've seen how to play the game, and now it's time to hear what we think about the game. So overall, we discussed this is a game from 2 to 6 players and 1 to 3 hours long, and that's a pretty good length, and you can pretty much fit your entire game group no matter what the size is. It's really hard to find a good 2-player game out there, and this is one that really stands up well against the choices. Overall, what did we think? Well, first let's discuss the fun factor of the game. I think that this is probably the top zombie game that you're going to find out there. At least of all the ones I've played. I mean, there's zombies, and that's kind of really simplistic, overly simplistic. It gets really repetitive. It's fun for the first game or two, then it gets really repetitive, and as soon as you know what you're doing, and it's also kind of a screw you kind of game where you're constantly trying to screw your neighbor, and that can be fun, but it gets old after a while. Then there's Mall of Horror. There's several different zombie games out there, but really this one stacks up really well compared to all the others. And I gotta say, playing as the humans and going through all the different human characters, they're just really entertaining. They're definitely thematic. So you have the cook diner and the nurse and the high school sweetheart and the drifter. Just lots of different cliche zombie movie style characters. And that's really the ultimate thing here, is that what you're playing isn't really a game about zombies so much as it is a game about a zombie movie. All the cliches are here, from the characters to the cards. The name of the game is Last Night on Earth, and you're going to find a card in there called This May Be Your Last Night on Earth, where if a male and female character are in the same space, you can make them lose a turn because it may be their last night on Earth. And that's just the kind of cheeseball stuff that you're going to get from this game, and that's what makes it a lot of fun. If you have a group that will really appreciate the style that the game is presented in, then you're going to have a lot of fun from this game. So for that, I give it an A-, just because it's got a lot of rules that kind of come into play, a lot of different scenarios. You can find one you really enjoy. You can make your own. They give you a lot of components for designing. This is a meteorite token, not used in the game, but if you wanted to come up with a scenario for it, you could. And that's what's really enjoyable about the game. It's just the simplicity, yet it's kind of complex with what you can do with it. A lot of choices, and you can decide which roles you like and which roles you don't, and just go for those. Overall, you can get up and playing with your group of friends in 5 to 10 minutes, and you know, it's a lot of fun. What did you think about it?
I think it's a lot of fun as well. I gave it a B because there are a few scenarios, and sometimes all the scenarios can get a bit, not really repetitive, but just at times it can get a bit dull. Not usually a lot of the time, but just sometimes it happens, and for that I give it a B. I mean, it's a really fun game, especially when compared to something like Zombies. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
The one thing I say is, you know, you definitely have to have some games in between. I know you got kind of burnt out on it whenever we were playing it a lot, but I mean, we did get quite a few plays in it with a lot of playtime, because the games generally go from 1 to 3 hours, and some games will go 1 hour, and some games will go 3 hours. I mean, it really is going the whole wide range of hours. It's not necessarily just based on how well you know the game. It's just based on how the scenario's going and how many people are thinking through their options and how well you're thinking those through. And in that regard, also, you mentioned the different scenarios. Well, the different scenarios play very differently. And that is one of the drawbacks, is sometimes you will just get a scenario where it's, for instance, go get the gas and go get the lighter. Well, if the gas and the lighter are on the bottom of the deck, the humans are going to have a hard time of playing the game and winning the game. But if it's on the top of the deck, they may win really quickly. So that's one problem that I have with the game, is sometimes it's just really based on luck.
Yeah, and that's like with my other game group, there are some times where you know from the beginning you're not going to win.
Yeah.
And it's just that team is waiting for the game to end because they're just like, well, we're not winning, so we're essentially playing just to let them win.
Yeah.
And there are times, not often, but it'll happen. And when that happens, it's
Yeah, I've had a couple games where immediately, you know, you're trying to find the townsfolk, and immediately you draw one, and then you find another one, and then you find an item that lets you find the other one, and you've won within 30 minutes. So, I mean, those games are, you know, generally you find a good mix where it's not really luck-based, but it kind of is. So once you find a middle base where it's really... it really is equal to where each side has a chance to win. Those are the most fun games, I think.
Yeah, I really, though a few games we played where it was just back and forth the entire game was really fun. That's where I really enjoyed the game. There were a few that were just
out of reach for one side or the other.
Yeah, usually the zombies.
Yeah,
usually the zombies usually win.
I don't know. I've had it happen both ways. So
for me, most of the time it's zombies or kicking me all over the place.
Well, it depends. If you're playing the mansion scenario, it's almost always the zombies that have the advantage.
Yeah.
But some of the others are pretty even. But going on to the simplicity of the rules, I discussed that there's a lot of rules that you can choose to include or choose not to include. For instance, fire and gas have some difficult rules. Not really difficult, but just added on to the normal stuff. And we have this manual. It's really, you've probably seen it in the intro video, actually.
Yeah.
23 pages, and really, you probably only need like 10 of these in order to start playing. And it's really not that difficult, but then once you start adding in different rules for the mansion, and different rules for the gas, and different rules for explosions, and zombie heroes, and the new red zombies that came in the expansion, it can get a little overwhelming. So I definitely suggest playing with the basic scenario and working your way up from that. Unfortunately, I don't think that the rule book is really laid out for that whole build up to a different level of difficulty. It really just throws all the rules together. So you kind of got to pick and choose what rules you're going to pay attention to and read them as you need them. But overall, it's a very simple game, and I give it a B. The mechanics are really simple. The hard part is reading through the rule book and figuring out what you need. I mean, you're rolling dice and comparing which one's higher, and doubles is a wound. So I mean, it's really kind of very simple in how the game plays.
Yeah, I gave it a B- myself because it is simple when you first start out, but as you add more to it, like you said, it just gets more and more complicated. There were quite a few times where we found ourselves in the later scenarios going back to the rule book and checking things over and over again because we just couldn't remember what we're supposed to do, or we couldn't remember a way it worked or whatever.
And that's another thing with the different mechanics. They mix in the different rules. So often you will go 3, 4, 5 games without dealing with that rule, and then suddenly when you come back to it, you need to figure out what that rule is again. So you will be using the rule book quite a bit. But overall, not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's some things like the lights out token. It's like, what exactly does lights out do?
And it doesn't work like you think it would either.
Yeah.
It's like all it affects is finding things. It doesn't affect you shooting guns and stuff like that. So,
but there are tokens that do that. So
yeah. So overall, you know, I give it a B. You give it a B-. Not too bad. But I think the rule book being laid out better would really really add to, you know, making it easier.